Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's DataVox webinar, How to Manage Evidence in an Increasingly Private World, presented by Genetec. My name is Jessica, and I will be your moderator today. We are broadcasting this webinar through Cisco WebEx events, and the audio can be heard through your PC or by calling into the phone number listed and with the access code provided in your confirmation email or calendar invite for this event. Today's webinar is being recorded on behalf of DataVox, and participation in this event indicates your consent to being included in that recording. All attendees will receive an email with a link to the completed recording 24 to 48 hours post-event. If you have questions for the presenters at any time during this presentation, you may submit those questions via the Q&A feature to the bottom right of your screen. This should already be turned on. Simply click Q&A and the text box will appear. Our panel will be responding to these questions throughout the presentation via text and verbally at the conclusion of the presentation. If you are in need of support or have a question not pertaining to today's topic, please utilize the chat feature and I will be happy to assist you. This feature is separate from the Q&A feature and can be turned on by clicking the chat bubble in the lower center of your screen. Now that we have reviewed the features of this webinar, we would like to start off today's presentation with a few words from our Director of Physical Security, Scott Ferguson. Scott, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you for the wonderful job you've been doing putting these together. I guess, hello, good morning, everybody. Like Jessica said, this is Scott Ferguson. I'm the Director of Physical Security here at DataVox. We also have Courtney Ferguson, who is our Senior Sales Engineer, who will be joining us today. I wanted to personally thank you all for taking the time this morning to attend this webinar series. We also have some webinars coming up, APC, which is May 5th, Single Wire, May 5th, Mersive, and Samsara are both on May 6th. So please remember to sign up and join if you guys are available during those times. We're going to have a Q&A question like Jessica. Please put them in the chat as you can, and we'll try to answer them all at the end of the meeting. If you guys are looking for, if we don't get to your questions, we can always get with you guys afterwards and either schedule a private demo or a private discussion. So we'll follow up with you guys. With that being said, I'll hand that over to Stephen with Genetec.
Good morning, everyone. Scott, Jessica, thank you very much for inviting Genetec in to talk to these attendees today. For those in attendance, we greatly appreciate your time. And we wanted to kind of talk a little bit about digital evidence management and what does that look like in today's environment. What we've seen from our clients that are looking to Genetec for this digital evidence management aspect is the ability to share, collaborate, and avoid and provide some risk mitigation to the organization, especially as we get back to work. So with Genetec Clearance, these are some of the things that we've learned from the voice of the customer. It's all about time. How much lost time are we incurring as we're trying to manage and navigate through these investigations? I think that's a critical question. I think one of the things we see is personnel are just spending a little bit too much time copying media and trying to share evidence in an effective manner. How does the organization manage the video request? So, as you're going through an incident or something occurs, how do you manage those requests? How do you intake the request? And then how do you move forward in transition and share and collaborate that data in a transparent way, but also in a way that's efficient and that you have full and complete auditing capabilities? I think that's a big piece of the puzzle, right? And how much time is spent once you've gotten some video into the queue trying to redact and protect the privacy of those individuals? I think that's another thing that sometimes gets overlooked as we're mitigating risk and also trying to protect people's privacy as well. And then how long do you need to maintain an incident for your records? And that can be driven by a lot of things. It can be driven by a compliance metric, very similar to PCI compliance, where you could be looking at 90 days of video storage that you need to maintain. That can be extremely costly when you're trying to maintain that on an on-prem server versus looking at a cloud-based storage solution and an evidence management tool like Clearance. And then I think, what safeguards are you taking to not only secure your digital evidence, but to make sure that if there's an issue, that you can go back and audit it for your risk management team. You know, the things that we've seen are some of the challenges and the trend. You know, I kind of look at it as a stop sign, right? We have to stop doing things the way that we've always done them and look at some alternative measures that are going to be more efficient, more effective, and provide a higher degree of auditing capabilities. You know, information is typically kept in silos. Although we all, as organizations, are trying to expand our horizons, we're trying to find more areas to share and collaborate on. But when it comes to digital evidence, especially when it comes to video, you know, it's been very department-driven. It's been very jurisdictional. There are different requirements based on the incident itself. Is there a lawsuit involved? Is this just, are we going to have to turn this over to law enforcement, or is this an internal investigation that we need to follow our HR guidelines to make sure that we're not infringing on someone's rights? So there's a lot of different things that go into how to direct that digital evidence. There's also a change in patterns, right? So organizations are wrestling with the quantity of data. There's so much data that's coming in from all these different tools, and it could be from you know, third-party software integrations that you have. There's this strategy to try to offload a lot of these processes to the cloud. Now you've got your internal sharing that's going on. So there's just a lot of things that are going on, and there's a lot of data. And what do we do with that data, and how do we secure that data in a way that mitigates our risk as an organization? So what we want to do is protect that data, right? We want to put tight controls in place to ensure not just the integrity of the evidence, but also the privacy that can be part of that process, right? And we definitely want to restrict unnecessary access to those individuals that don't need access to that particular event or evidence. So what we've seen in the past is typically, you know, a document very similar to this, where, you know, you've got your date of incident, you've got your time of the incident, you're trying to do all this, and that's a very manual process that, again, is very time-consuming as you're trying to build these patterns, right? And so what we're trying to do with clearance through Genetec is the ability to literally do a right-click in Security Center and send that evidence to the cloud and immediately start the investigation, where you can take, you know, any incident reports, any JPEG images or photos that you've gathered. It could be a video from social media feeds. Maybe somebody caught something during an incident that you can literally take a link with clearance and attach that into your company Facebook page and say, listen, you can anonymously upload that video via this link, and now we can take that video and assign it to the case. And so that way we have a central depository for all of that digital evidence, to where we can log the case, we can restrict access, and we can share and collaborate with law enforcement or our risk mitigation team if necessary. So it's the million-dollar question, right? You know, how do we find a balance between people, process, and technology? I think that is the mythical unicorn in a lot of cases, but I think Genetec brings a lot of credence to this particular philosophy or this particular need. I think first of all, it's, you know, how do we make it easy and efficient and secure for people to share data? I think that's a critical piece of the puzzle. And then you have the governance piece of it as well too, right? To ensure that there's information privacy, to make sure that you're restricting access to only those folks that within the organization need to have access to that data, that might need to review that process. I think that's a big piece of the puzzle. So we have to try to find that balance. I think that's one of the reasons why when we built Clearance, we built it on a Microsoft Azure platform to utilize the cybersecurity feature sets that were inherently embedded into that Microsoft Azure platform. And what we found from our customers is, again, trying to find the balance between storing this video online on archivers, NVRs, network video recorders, on site, which was increasing and really increasing their storage requirements. And in some cases was very inefficient and very costly for them to do, where cloud storage was less expensive and a more predictable cost over time, right? Can be amortized over time. So I think if you look at it, it really gave folks the ability to share. And we had a specific end user that came to us specifically about clearance. And that's really the voice of the customer is what drove the development of clearance. We had an end user come to us and say, listen, Genetec, we're spending over $40,000 a year in DVDs, and we have this problem because we have all of these locations that cross all these different jurisdictions. So it could be, very similar here in Texas, it could be the Department of Public Safety requesting information, or it could be your, local municipal police department, or it could be your sheriff's department, depending on where the actual physical location was residing. It was very inefficient, very costly, and very time consuming because as they would get these requests in, they would have to go, grab the video, burn it to a DVD, coordinate with local law enforcement or district attorney's office to get the information to them in a timely manner. And during this entire process, they had a huge burden of maintaining the chain of custody of that evidence as well. That was a big piece of the puzzle, is how do we go through and in a court of law, if necessary, prove that we followed the chain of custody, right? So it went from, our server to a DVD specifically to that law enforcement entity that needed to review the video. So this gave them, through the ability to utilize clearance, it gave us the ability to share and collaborate with local law enforcement, but also protect the integrity of the digital evidence. And that was the key indicator and key driver behind clearance. That's what led us down that road for development. I think it's one of the things we wanted to do with clearance is we wanted to make sure that it was very intuitive and easy to use. So to be able to do that, you have to be able to get access to it from any device. It could be your desktop PC, it could be a laptop, or more importantly, a mobile device. Maybe you're on the run, and through a secure login, you now have the ability to start that evidentiary process, or it could be from a tablet. There are, especially in today's environment, what we've noticed with COVID is that, we can plan for a lot of things as a country. It's hard to plan for a pandemic, right? So we've seen offices have to shut down. They're having to remote individuals. I mean, here at Genetec, we had to relocate north of 1,000 people into remote offices overnight. Now, folks like myself that are on the sales side of the equation, it was a very easy it was an easier transition. I don't want to say it was an easy, but I would say it was an easier transition for folks like us that work remotely on a day-to-day basis. But for those individuals that go to the office in Montreal every day, it was quite a change in an experience. So one of the things that we've learned is through clearance, it gives our customers the ability to, even in a situation like this where they're remoted, to still be able to manage that evidence in a confident, secure way, and also protect the privacy and integrity of their coworkers, customers, vendors, so on and so forth. So the primary ask was the ability to centralize the evidence, right, and to centralize the cases. It's very important when you're trying to manage, or if you're trying to reduce the risk to the organization, to be able to centralize that data in a very secure way. So you want to consolidate the video, but that's only one part of a case. Through my years of experience, I found that, the incident report, the video, a lot of times if it's, physical damage to a vehicle or physical damage to the property, you're having to take, pictures, not just for law enforcement's case, but also for insurance requirements as well too. So the ability to take those images, the ability to write that incident report, the ability to ingest all of the information that could be potentially critical to that specific incident, all in one centralized point, makes it very easy for your risk mitigation teams, your loss prevention teams, your directors of global and physical security, your senior leadership, to have a single place to go back and review an incident. And not only review an incident, but be able to share that with other individuals within the organization that need to be made aware of a critical incident or a potential threat to the organization. The ability to, drag and drop files very quickly and very easily is a critical piece of the puzzle as well too, right? So if you make this difficult, people are not going to embrace the change. But if you make it simple and easy and very intuitive for them, then most folks will fall in line and will get on board, especially when we talk about securely storing data as related to either, again, an incident, it could be insurance related, there could be a lot of things that drive an investigation, especially an internal investigation. But to be able to drag a file and simply drop it, you can add files from your computer, you can add files from a Genetec clearance case that's already open, you can create a folder. There's a lot of different ways to be able to organize that evidence in custom folders that are related to that specific incident, and then direct those uploads into the system. Review evidence. I think one of the other things that we were tasked with is as we rolled clearance out into the market, we found that there were end users that had multiple video platforms, okay? And so we wanted to have, as agnostic as we possibly could, this digital evidence case management tool. So one of the things that we did is we went out and currently clearance supports over 100 different codecs. So we have customers that have clearance but do not have any other related products to Genetec. They utilize this strictly for evidence management, case management, and a sharing and collaboration tool. So we'll support over 100 codecs, and then you can play back those videos directly within clearance in a browser without having to install any proprietary software. And I think that's the other side of it as well. What we really wanted to do with this is truly make it a case management tool, an evidence management tool. So regardless of the VMS, we were still able to upload that video file into clearance. And then as your team did their review, they would be able to simply go in and play the video back and look at it in a secure environment, which also makes it extremely nice for when you have to share with local law enforcement or maybe even an insurance carrier, whatever the case may be that's driving the need for this evidence. So the ability to send a link, and not only send them a link, but put a time deterministic aspect to it as well too. Say, hey, listen, we're going to share this video or this information with you. You have 24 hours to take a look at this video, or you're going to have to re-request access to the video. And then through this entire process, from the moment that you upload the video file into clearance to the moment you go and review it, to the moment you go and share it with another individual, that entire process is completely audited within the system. So if you have to go back and show the chain of custody or who you shared the information with, that is right there at your fingertips, fully audited, so that you can show exactly how you handled this sensitive information. Share the evidence securely. Again, one of the things that was very important to us was the ability to fully go back and audit and to share and collaborate. So if it's not a tool that you can share and collaborate with, it's not a useful tool, right? So I think the most important thing is the ability to easily invite others that have the necessity to look at the actual evidence itself. And that could be your internal teams, that could be your senior leadership team, that could be local law enforcement, it could be an insurance carrier. There's a lot of different individuals. However, we want to be able to manage what they can see and what they can do. So I can give them the ability to view and download. I can give them the ability to view only. Those tools are right there at my hands. And through that entire process, I have a complete audit trail that I can follow. It's very important, again, that although it's a very powerful tool, but digital evidence is still evidence, right? So we have to have the ability to monitor and audit how people are utilizing that particular information. So again, it could be your internal individuals, it could be senior leadership, It could be loss prevention, it could be risk mitigation team, it could be local law enforcement, it could be a DA. Regardless of who it is, you want to make sure that you can track the user's activity through the audit trail. What did you do, right? Did you make a change? Did we grant you permission? Did you download the video file, right? What did you do? So you want to be able to review the details, including user, what actions they took. We want to timestamp exactly when that happened, and we want to grab the IP address from where they actually downloaded that potential video. So I think these things are extremely important. Again, it's all about securing the data. It's all about providing an audit trail to your team. It's all about giving some assurance to your risk mitigation teams that are responsible for keeping the organization between the lines. The other request we got, and this is something that was built into clearance, was the ability to effectively do face redactions. So one of the things that we were asked was, hey, listen, let's say that we have an incident in a specific location, and the bad actor is the only person that we want to show their information. So one of the things that we did is we built in the ability to go in and detect faces within an image, and then we gave the system the ability to redact those faces to protect the privacy and the integrity of the other individuals within the scene, but identify the person that's actually doing the wrong, right? So the ability to manually mask can be easily applied for additional redaction in video if needed. So let's say that maybe there is a critical area with sensitive data or sensitive things in that specific area, and you not only want to do the facial redaction to protect the privacy and integrity of those individuals that are in the scene, but you also want to mask off that area because, quite honestly, it has nothing to do with the actual event itself. But we want to protect that proprietary information to the organization. What we see is that organizations overall are burdened on a regular basis, and it could be an internal request from maybe a department head who says, hey, listen, we had an incident. We need to go in and do an internal review. I'm the supervising manager for that specific department. I need to take a look and see what's going on in my FIFM, my kingdom. So that's an internal request. It could be a request from the police department for video. That, you know, they come to you and say, hey, listen, and I've had this happen before with some of my end users. There was actually a homicide outside the gates of one of my end users many, many years ago. And they had a camera that was facing the driveway of the convenience, or the entrance to the convenience store where the incident actually occurred. So the police department came to that business after they did their investigation, and they took a look at any potential camera that could have caught a glimpse of the incident, came to my specific end user, and asked them to produce the video. Did you have video of this particular date and time? The investigators came in as an integrator. I was pulled into the equation to go and physically grab the data, burn it to a DVD, and then we had to, through the organization, present that to local law enforcement. That was the manual way of doing that process, and it was very time-consuming. We didn't have some of the speed controls that we have today and some of the smart features that are built into Genetec to be able to quickly search a specific area to pull all the data forward in a timely and efficient manner. So this can be very time-consuming for an organization. With a tool like Clearance, we can say, absolutely, let us go and pull that video. We're going to send you a link for that video where you can download it and review it in your office. And then last but not least, depending on the organization, you could be asked through the Freedom of Information Act for any relevant video or data, depending on, you know, you as the end user, depending on what guidelines and rules and regulations you fall under. So you have to be conscientious of that as well. So again, these organizations are burdened for video on multiple fronts, depending on what the request is. So we want to streamline the request, right? So the first thing we want to do is we want to have policy-based workflows for not just requesting the video, but also releasing the video between collaborators. We want the automation of the video retrieval process and also the exporting process and the delivery aspect. How do we automate the flow? This will reduce time and it will reduce burden on not just your loss prevention teams, but your risk mitigation teams, your senior leadership teams, those individuals that get affected and impacted by this. And then if we have a standardization process in place for centralizing those records and the performance of those historical requests, that can be extremely valuable to the organization, especially if somebody comes back after the fact and says, hey, I don't think you guys followed the process. I don't know what your auditing capabilities are. We have a question or a concern over the integrity of this evidence. Being able to go into something like clearance and pull those audited results and be able to show that, hey, this is the process that we went through from the moment that we downloaded this video into clearance. Here's a complete audit trail of what occurred. And again, clearance is one of those products that can be absolutely fully tied to Security Center or can be agnostic. So it gives you some flexibility in how you manage that critical data for the organization. So finding evidence faster, right? So you want to manage the request. You want to get those approvals through. We also built in the ability with clearance to be able to build a camera registry that you can share with local law enforcement or other entities based on what you want to do, right? So it's you can publish a list of your cameras to allow internal or external parties to request video directly from clearance. And this is something that we found more in the city or municipal environment where, you know, they're doing a lot, they deal with a lot of evidence. And how do we, you know, share and collaborate? Can we identify cameras that we can quickly go to clearance and request video, get that approval process put in place, and then move forward from there. And then you want to respond to the request, right? So you can create a custom intake form to gather the details and qualify the request. You want to make sure that the request is coming from a valid entity before you share or collaborate with anybody. And then, you know, automatically export requested video to a shareable case, especially if you need to work with local law enforcement. And then most importantly, keep that historical record of all those requests and the outcomes as well. So what was done? Did they review the video? Did they download the video? What does that look like overall? So just kind of a quick summary is, so, you know, you send the invite to clearance. You want to check for the available footage. Maybe you complete the request form. From there, you send the email notification to review a request. And then at the end of the day, you can look at the valid. So is the request or the form valid? Is it something that we're going to approve or reject? And then if we need to export video, maybe from a third party, or just literally give them the request to say, yes, you're approved, you can export the video, or they can add exported video to a case. Maybe they, again, through social media, you know, today, in today's environment, anytime anything happens, what's the first thing that people do? They pull out their phone and they hit that record button, right? So a lot of times the general public can lead some quality video, especially in an investigation. It can be added to a case, and then ultimately through an email notification, we can let that third-party entity, meaning local law enforcement, maybe an insurance carrier, or whoever the organization deems to be an approved third party to be able to review the confidential information, to download the video. But again, through this entire process, we've audited every step of the way. So the Genetec clearance, kind of in a summary, the way that I look at it every time is, you know, we want to collect, we want to manage, we want to automate the workflows, but last but not least, we want to be able to collaborate. So again, the request comes in through your security department or an internal department. You very efficiently and very effectively are able to go in and grab that video. Now you are able to upload that video into the case management tool. You immediately start the auditing process, so you have full control and full auditing capabilities through the ease of use for the actual user itself to be able to use a desktop, a laptop, or a handheld device. There's a lot of flexibility in how we access the data. However, it's all securely done. You must authenticate. And then through authentication, we're now going to give you only access and only rights based on the roles, permissions, and privileges that we've assigned you to be able to look at that particular evidence. So play that video from the browser. I think that's a huge piece of it, right? So you want to review, redact, share videos received in a proprietary video codec. No need to burn that to disk anymore. That could be very timely and very costly depending on the number of requests that are coming in. And then no need to install those standalone players. I think that's the other side of the equation, is how do we get away from standalone players and be more efficient in how we look at video and share it. We do have a mobile app. It's a native mobile app to send videos, photos, audio recordings, notes directly to a case, especially if maybe you're out in the field and, again, we're taking those images of this damaged vehicle. Maybe somebody comes and says, hey, my car was wrecked on your location. As you're going through and reviewing the video internally, maybe you send a guard out there, and that guard goes and literally takes images or photos of that particular vehicle, uploads them directly into clearance, and so now you'll have the ability to compare what your on-premise cameras were able to catch versus what you were able to take photos of right there in person. And all through the mobile app, you're uploading this information into the case. And then no files, and this is critically important, no files are stored on the devices. All the files, including the audit trails, are all captured within clearance. And I think that's an important aspect because you don't want to be responsible for that evidence on maybe a personal device, or even if it's a company laptop, you want to be able to offload that in a secure location where it can't be tampered or altered. And then, as we get back to work and as we dealt through this COVID crisis as a nation, we've had to change the way that we look at the world. We've had to change the way that we do things. We've been forced into this remote experience, and I think that it's going to make us stronger, and I think we're going to have a stronger outcome because of it. But I really think that clearance is a tool that allows us to mitigate the risk, but move towards the ability to have the flexibility to gain access to that data, to centrally store the data, especially when you're talking about from disparate systems. So maybe you're in the process of making a move to Genetec, but you still have an existing investment in another platform. You still want to have a cohesive or a centralized point to be able to pull that data in and share and collaborate amongst team members. Redact video in the app, I think that's a huge piece, especially when we're trying to protect the individual privacy of our peers or our customers, for that matter. Share evidence within the organization, also with local law enforcement, but in some cases, attorneys and district attorney's office, depending on the severity of what's been done. And then last but not least, we want to make sure that we secure the security and the auditability of the data. We want to be able to go back and run an audit to disprove a negative, especially if it's aimed against the organization. It's all about encryption, pardon me. It's all about encryption and it's all about cybersecurity, right? So in today's environment, I think I read a study, or in fact, I read a study a couple of months back where it said that the average cost for an organization based on a cybersecurity breach, regardless of the industry, is between, I believe, $4 and $6 million. The fallout for that is tremendous, right? So one of the things that we feel like we have a responsibility to do at Genetec is to secure our platforms to the very best of our ability, based on best practices, cybersecurity guidelines and the internal cybersecurity team that we have employed here at Genetec. So there's a huge focus on encryption to make sure that we can securely transfer that data and securely store that data, especially in a cloud platform. So there's some flexibility there. So that wraps up the PowerPoint piece of the presentation. I'm going to hand control over to Robert Preble, who is my sales engineer for South Texas and Louisiana. And we're going to do a quick product demonstration. Again, it's going to be quick. It's going to be more of a high-level overview, but we want to kind of give you a look at the application in a real-life demo type scenario as well. And thank you for your time again. We appreciate it. And again, we'll get to the questions and answer period here soon.
Thank you for that, Stephen. I appreciate that. Wait for you to share over the screen. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of this morning, spending some time with us. And let's see, I have control here. And I should be sharing now. Stephen, if you could just confirm you can see my screen, please, sir.
Yes, we can see it, Rob.
Okay, thank you. All right, so looking here, this is my on-prem or on-premise Genetec Security Center system, my demo system. I just have a few cameras up here and a map. I just wanted to do, as Stephen mentioned, a high-level demonstration here to show you how easy it is from a Genetec standpoint to be able to push video or even any other documentation up into the Clearance cloud account. So as I mentioned, I have just a few cameras here. I'm going to click on this A105 camera and maybe go back to my timeline, a couple of minutes here for recorded video. And I'm basically going to right-click and drag the timeline of interest that I have in this video. Open this up in my timeline. I'm simply going to right-click, send to Genetec Clearance. It's going to ask me if I want to create a new case or select an existing case. I'm just going to select an existing case that I have and type that in. Then we'll do a search, and then it'll populate up anything that matches the keywords I typed in. Select my test bed there, and then I can also add additional information in regards to maybe what happened in the case, whatever it may be. I'm just going to type in test just as a name, and confirm my time and date stamp here. Click OK. I'm going to get a confirmation successfully queued for upload. I did notice there was a question that was brought up. Just real quick, I don't want to get into Q&A, but I do want to let you know if you do not have internet access at the time in which you attempt to upload video or other files into Clearance, it will be queued for the next time that your device or computer does reconnect to the internet, and then it will push that video or document up into Clearance. So I'll go ahead and minimize this. I've already logged into my Clearance account online. Here's my menu of my activities. So here are my cases that I've got it built up, just a bunch of test cases here. But you notice when I did upload that, I requested to go into the metal test case. So I'm going to go and open up my metal test case here and open this up to our general tab in regards to showing just general information in regards to what department we may be a part of. As my default, the district attorney's office, maybe the detectives. And then down here, we got more description of the case. The location in which something occurred. We can actually generate the map right from here and then add that and select the location if we'd like to. That's very helpful in regards to confirming, especially when it comes to recording video from a mobile phone that is pushing video up. We can actually identify by latitude and longitude coordinates in GIS the actual location in which the incident occurred based off of the coordinates of the tracking of the phone. Over here on the right-hand side, we have our permissions. As Stephen mentioned, we can invite either new users or invite a guest user into the account. And again, once we do that, as you saw in a couple of the slides, we're able to select what that user or guest is able to do. We can set a time frame on there, such as 72 hours, 48 hours, to allow that user to come in, and either view or download, edit, or manage the documentation and/or video that resides within the case. And then down here, we'll have our files that are loaded up into this case, any kind of PDFs, Excel spreadsheets, video, things like that. So I can come over and select this particular video, do a preview of it, confirm this. So if I was a user or even a guest and have the privilege to come in and view the recorded video, we certainly can. Not a whole lot going on in this scene, aside from the fan being turned on and me kind of playing around with clearance. But you are able to come in, preview those items. Also, if you have privilege, you can download either the original file, an MP4 file copy of that, or actually run this through the Genetec video player. Sorry, I clicked on the wrong button there. Also, as Stephen mentioned in the slides, you can come into the redaction video. I can go ahead and open this up because I don't have any kind of faces within this video, but to kind of give you an idea of the feel of the live feel of the redaction. We can come open this section. Give it just a moment, please. And so as we play that video, we've already started detecting faces within the scene. Once a face was detected or multiple faces were detected within the scene, you can pause that and create a mask within the view. And then once the face comes across, we can actually come over here on the left-hand side, and we can either redact all the faces within the view, or we can go to specific ones and not just do a stationary redaction of video, but we can actually travel this along the course of where that person or persons are moving and track that and redact that video all the way across the entire scene of the video exchange there. That's essentially it on a very high level. Unless, Stephen, you wanted to add anything else into this. Like I said, that's probably one of the shortest demos I've done, but it does give you an idea of the live look and feel of using the product.
No, I think, Robert, that's great. That's exactly what I was looking for. I think that, again, this is a high-level demo for those individuals that want to get in more detail or have a more in-depth product demonstration. We can absolutely schedule that with Scott Ferguson and his team to actually come in and have those further discussions. I think that's a big piece of it. I think as we transition into the question and answer period, and again, Robert, I appreciate you addressing the question that we got in. But one of the things that I always kind of think about it is today, how are different organizations, depending on industry, handling and distributing that video? And so for the audience and attendance, I'd be really curious to see if you guys have looked at any tools like this, or if traditional request comes in, you go and pull the data and then you serve it up, maybe on a shared drive or another means to be able to share and collaborate the data. I'd be curious to see what the attendees have experienced when asked for video. Are there any questions from the audience perspective right now that they might want to address? Very curious to see kind of what your opinion is on what you've seen today. If there's any questions or anything that Robert and I can answer, please let me know. I'm here for you today, folks.
Hey, Stephen, this is Robert. In the event, waiting on some questions. I did want to throw out there that we did receive this email yesterday morning in regards to clearance being available at no cost to the end of this year. For anybody that is interested that's on the call today, if you'd like some more details, I would suggest that please contacting your DataVox rep and have them give you some more details in regards to this, since we are all in the same boat together and not being able to necessarily go to our offices and do our daily routines. This is one thing that came up from Eric Sarasato, who's the head of the clearance department. So I just wanted to share that because it did just come out yesterday morning.
Well, I'll share that with Scott and his team. Robert, we did have a couple of questions. One of them was, do you have better cameras? I'm wondering how many cameras would be needed in a warehouse to actually see a person's face. So Jeff, let me go ahead and and address this. So being able to determine or recognize a face, especially in a warehouse environment, is really tricky. It's all based on a number of pixels per foot. Typically, when you're trying to pull a face, that level of clarity, you could be looking in excess of 75 to 85 pixels per foot to be able to see that facial quality that you're looking for. And so it's really based on the distance. There's a couple of things that come into that factor into it. It's the distance from the camera to the object of interest. And then there's the pixel density aspect of it, where we literally look at the distance to the object, and then the horizontal resolution plays a big piece into that. So I don't want to get too technical, but it's really about pixels on point. How many pixels can we put on point to be able to pull the level of detail out of an image that you need to see? I hope that was beneficial and answered your questions. And then we had another question about share the data, no cloud storage at this time, but your product is very impressive. It removes a lot of pain points. So you don't have to have your own cloud storage at this time, and I really appreciate the comment. There's been a lot of forethought and a lot of focus behind the development of Clarence. Again, it came from the voice of the customer. That's really what drove the development for Clarence overall. We can provide you with those cloud storage options as part of the Clarence package. So we have the ability to share and to provide you pricing for cloud-based storage, especially for the Clarence platform. So if it's something that you would like to investigate, please get with Scott and his team, and we will absolutely work with them to provide you with the details that you would like to see. I would agree. I think that depending on the industry that you're currently engaged in, I think that's going to drive the number of requests for evidence. One of the pain points that I saw personally for my end users was when those requests came in, a lot of times they were more reactive versus proactive. So the request came in, they had to go back to the video, and a lot of times it was to disprove a negative. So they might not come up as frequently as other industries require, but when they do come up, you want to have something that insulates the corporation or the entity from liability or risk. So Clarence is a tool that allows us to put a buffer in place to ensure the integrity of the evidence collection point, and then also ensure the integrity of the ability to go back and audit what's actually occurred. So I think one of the things that we might want to do, again, when we talk about the distance from the camera to the object, is you have a very strong partner in DataVox. I personally have had the opportunity to work with Scott Ferguson for a while now and his team. What I would suggest that if you're trying to pull facial capabilities out of an image, or if you're trying to make sure that you have enough pixel density to dive in, digitally zoom into an image to pull details out, that you get with their team, have them come over and take a look at, do a site survey, take a look at the request or the requirement, and then there are tools available to all of us that we can utilize to pinpoint exactly what we're going to need from a pixel density perspective to be able to pull the level of detail out of the image. And ultimately, if you're trying to protect the privacy of those individuals, the better quality we can get, the easier it is. Now, our facial redaction tool, if there's any face, even if it's a little blurred, we're looking to pick it up. And even if it doesn't automatically pick it up, we can still put an overlay over that face and redact that face to protect the privacy of that individual. So I would focus more on making sure that the camera technology is meeting the intent of the request or the requirement. And Scott Ferguson and his team, they're a unified elite partner with Genetec. They've been a Genetec partner for many, many years. They really understand our platform, and they really understand how to help you to get from point A to point B. And I think we have a few more questions. You know, when you're looking at camera technology, there has been a tremendous advancement in resolution. And resolution is what drives pixel density, right? So the more pixels available, the more density we have to dive into an image. Again, if you'll contact Scott and his team, they'll be able to help you work through that process. You're right. There's a couple of things that impact the upload of information. This is a really good question about, you know, high resolution videos taking a little bit longer to upload. Again, you know, it's internet connectivity. It is, you know, the amount of data that you're trying to collect and push up to the cloud. Those things can all impact, you know, how long it's going to take. However, I will tell you that I've uploaded some pretty high resolution videos to Clarence, and it's been pretty quick. So it's not like a traditional scenario, but like anything else, if you're utilizing the smart tools and you're able to really dial in on the incident and stay within the integrity of that incident, you should be in good shape to be able to get that upload into the cloud. So this is a really good question about storage. So remember that when you talk about storage, the things that really apply are what we call recording parameters. And again, Scott and his team are very proficient in this. What we're looking for storage, depending on what your requirement is, you know, 7 days, 14 days, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, depending on the compliance requirements, it's all about the total camera resolution. It's all about the desired frames per second, and it's all about your local video retention time. Now, if you're looking at it from a cloud-based storage perspective, especially with Clarence, you're going to be doing segments of video. So it's not the same storage requirement than you would have on an on-prem system where you're focused on storing that data for that extra amount of time, whatever that case may be. We've got about 8 minutes left. Scott and team, I'm not sure if you guys are you know, when you guys want to transition back and take control, but we got about 8 minutes left. If there's any other questions, you know, one of the things that I've seen that is always very difficult is tracking and auditing any sharing or collaboration of video. I think that one of the things that our customers were really demanding from us was the auditing capabilities, not to forego the ability to share and collaborate, because that was a huge ask as well. But most importantly, how do we audit? How do we disprove the negative? How do we show that we did everything the right way and that we were good stewards of the evidence itself?
All right. Well, hey, Stephen, Robert, thank you very much. Really appreciate everything you guys have done today. You know, one of the things I just wanted to talk about was, you know, as we get back to work, we're all going to have to take extra precautions. There's going to be new processes and procedures that are going to be put in place. It's going to be a little time consuming, right? So, you know, what we're trying to do is help your business get back to what we call the new normal, whatever the new normal is. And, you know, will you have time to handle all these new security policies? And I believe that this is where Genetec Security Clearance can do that for you guys and minimize the time that you have to spend on evidence management, which can be extremely time consuming depending on what video platform you use. But with that being said, on behalf of DataVox, we just want to thank you for attending our webinar series. Appreciate all the guys that have, all the new people and all the guys that have been with us since the beginning of starting this webinar series. We hope that all your families are healthy and safe. I also want to thank Stephen and Robert for the time that they spent today, along with Jessica and her team, which has done a phenomenal job. Hope you have a great rest of the day. Please reach out to us if you would like to have a private demo session to learn more about these solutions or any other solution that we can help you guys get back to work more efficiently. So Thank you again for the time. Over to you, Jessica.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you all again for joining today's webinar. As a reminder, the recording link for today's session will be emailed to all attendees 24 to 48 hours post-event. If you have enjoyed today's session and would like to hear more, we do offer new webinars weekly. Please check our DataVox website for more information on upcoming sessions. And as always, we would love to hear your feedback on our events. Once this webinar has ended, you will be redirected to a survey page. If you could please take a moment to complete the survey before closing out your browser, we would greatly appreciate it. That concludes our session for today. Thank you again to Stephen and Rob for a great presentation, and thank you all for joining us. Have a great rest of your day.